This is looking at how when we play roles in society, those roles take over who we are, or can take over who we are.
This is a painting known as The Supper at Emmaus. And in the 1940s, when it was thought to be painted by Johann Vermeer, it was worth millions of dollars. It was perhaps literally priceless. It was in Holland, and it was one of the most renowned paintings in Europe. People would travel through Europe to see it. Until one terrible day when it was discovered that it was not painted by Vermeer at all, but by the great forger, Van Meegeren. In other words, it was discovered it was not this painting, but that painting. And all of a sudden, its value dropped to nothing. How you taste something is critically affected by what you believe you're eating. And this shows up in all sorts of ways. One nice finding involves children. How do you get children not just to eat their carrots and drink milk, but after they have the carrots and milk, to report that they tasted good, better than your normal carrot, better than your normal glass of milk? It's actually terribly simple to do this. This was done in a study a couple of years ago. You take them out from a McDonald's bag. They get people into a brain scanner, and as they're lying on their back, there's a tube going into their mouth, and they get to drink wine through the tube while their brains are being scanned. Above them is a screen where they can read information about the wine that they're drinking. Everybody drinks the same wine. If they think they're drinking the cheap stuff, they'll report, it doesn't taste so good, and they have a low-level neural response. If they think they're drinking 200 out of a $200 bottle, they say they love it, and the pleasure centers of their brain light up like a Christmas tree. This is John Cage's work. Comes under different names, but it's often called 4 minutes, 33 seconds, because it was a famous modern performance where the pianist is instructed to sit at the piano and be silent for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Now, as you can imagine, this is fairly controversial, whether or not this is brilliant or just ridiculous. But my favorite fact about this is you can go onto iTunes and you can buy for $1.99 the entire of 4 minutes 33 seconds, which is of course silent. And I've read commentaries on this where people are outraged. They say, look, just turn down the volume of your computer and sit there for 4 minutes 33 seconds. But psychologically, I think that wouldn't be the same silence.
So this is demonstrating how advertising and the cultural ideas then fill us up, and we begin to see things in that way.
That silence from that performance.
You know, it's astonishing to me that we don't realize we make this all up. We made the whole thing up. You know why gold is what the value it is? Because somebody said so. That's it. You know why fuel costs what it is? Because somebody said so. Somebody speculates, somebody decides, there's a belief, enough people join in, this is what a thing costs. We've all decided this. So an awakening of, we're repeating these cycles and we're getting kind of tired of it, maybe we should do something different this time around, be something different.
People are interested in processing meaning and values. We have to hear that. It's the society, the media especially, that puts ordinary people into this vain search of material goodies. Yeah. People didn't live this way even 50, 60 years ago. You know, this is just a very recent phenomenon, that if you have, instead of one cell phone, 2 cell phones in 2 pockets, then somehow you'll be better off.
Ha ha! Right! I'm the king of excess. I'm the sultan of sales. I'm the boss of bargains. My credit cards, they never fail. I got a 700 something on my beacon score, which means I don't own a thing and I can buy even more. I'm a buffet eating, tabloid reading, lovable guy. I get the best of the best that my money can't buy. It's a wonderful life. It's a wonderful life with my red-headed wife. It's a
average U.S. person now consumes twice as much as they did 50 years ago. Ask your grandma. In her day, stewardship and resourcefulness and thrift were valued. So how did this happen? Shortly after World War II, these guys were figuring out how to ramp up the economy. Retailing analyst Victor Lebeau articulated the solution that's become the norm for the whole system. He said, our enormously productive economy demands that we make consumption our way of life, that we convert the buying and use of goods into rituals, that we seek our spiritual satisfaction, our ego satisfaction in consumption. We need things consumed, burned up, replaced, and discarded at an ever-accelerating rate. Advertisements and media in general plays a big role in this. Each of us in the U.S. is targeted with over 3,000 advertisements a day. We see more advertisements in 1 year than people 50 years ago saw in a lifetime. And if you think about it, what's the point of an ad except to make us unhappy with what we have? So 3,000 times a day, we're told our hair is wrong, our skin is wrong, our clothes are wrong, our furniture is wrong, our car is wrong, we are wrong, but it can all be made right if we just go shopping.
Commercials and advertising are are designed to artificially drive demand, to create need where there isn't need, to drive consumption.
Mr. Rogers, who was the TV guy here in the United States, said the space between the television and the viewer should be sacred. It comes down to money. If they can sell it, if it helps humanity, I don't believe that the make or break point for anything that's done in the media, for the most part, 99%, is about the influence on the consumer. It's about, can we sell it? And if they can sell it and it's good for you, they'll sell it. But if they sell it and it's not good for you, they'll sell it anyway. In my world, I think that matters greatly on the impact of the listener because it changes their lives one way or the other.
Part of the problem is people are too focused on their own little world, their own little lives, what it is they want to accomplish, when in fact there's really nothing you can accomplish that feels quite as happy as doing it with other people. And so I think there's been too much of the entrepreneurial greed, me focus in the last few decades. And I do think that people have become aware that we're becoming more unhappy, not just in the United States, but all over the world. Depression rates are rising faster. I don't know that people are always aware of it until you ask powerful questions. And the research is so interesting on this that if you ask college students what they aspire to, they talk about money. But if you ask them what the best thing was that happened to them in the last month, they mention experiences with other people. They never mention possessions. So on an intuitive level, people do understand what it is that brings them joy, but sometimes they have to find out the hard way.
So we're in this ridiculous situation where we go to work, maybe 2 jobs even, and we come home and we're exhausted, so we plop down on our new couch and watch TV, and the commercials tell us you suck, so you got to go to them all to buy something to feel better, and then you got to go to work more to pay for the stuff you just bought, so you come home and you're more tired, so you sit down and you watch more TV, and it tells you to go to the mall again, and we're on this crazy work, watch, spend treadmill, and we could just stop.
I had a question, and the question was?
I have written an open letter to President Obama, reviving that slogan. You know, during the Clinton presidential campaign, they had a slogan called, "It's the economy, stupid." For me, the slogan is, "It's the worldview, stupid." It's unless the worldview changes, unless the worldview acknowledges listening to the values, listening to the personal meaning of life and the social meaning of life, unless we do this, real change cannot come. So I wrote to President Obama, if you talked about real change, change that we can believe in, if you really want change that we can believe in, please help us to change our worldview.
The change of man is the key to changing everything else in the world. Without it, nothing significant will change. What we need is not just patching up, not just solutions to current problems. What we need is a transformation, a fundamental transformation, which means a change of values, a change of thinking, change of consciousness, change in the way the human being thinks and acts.
Worldviews affect the engine of civilization. It affects who we each individually think who we are and how we behave and our moral sense, business. It affects everything. An experiment was done by two social psychologists where they did the following. They took a bunch of students and they had them read one of two passages. One of the passages was a description of who we think we are. And then the key phrase in this paragraph was, "You're nothing but a pack of neurons," that were basically all material substances, in which case everything you think you are, all of your thoughts and emotions and all of your interior life is nothing but a pack of neurons. And then they gave the students the opportunity to do a couple of experiments where they could cheat if they wanted to. And what they found was that the students who read the passage, "You're nothing but a pack of neurons," cheated significantly more. If your worldview says that there is no inherent meaning in anything, and ultimately the universe is a pointless object, and when you die you're dead and there's nothing else going on, then it changes your sense of how do I need to live right now? Well, I should get everything I should get right now. I should cheat if I have to. Whereas if we had a different model, which said maybe you're part of some gigantic living system with some kind of inherent meaning and all the rest, it could have consequences not only for yourself, but for your loved ones and everyone else.
All the problems that we're facing right now, they're not problems. They're actually questions.
Who are we? Who do we really choose to be? How do we choose to relate to life itself? How do we choose to relate to all the different elements of life, the environment, the planet itself, obviously the people? Why are we here, and where are we going from here?
What is the meaning of my life?
We're in a transition stage where the old answers are no longer sustainable, and that's why we're facing the crises we face. So there's a population in a state of flux saying the old stuff doesn't work, and we're ready for new answers that will create a newer, more sustainable civilization. Simple point, the old civilization is no longer sustainable, the answers are flawed, new answers are in, and we're in the moment of taking those new answers and weaving a new culture that will support those answers and support ourselves.
At this critical point in time, we have to redefine what it means to be human. We have to choose a new identity, literally choose a new identity, and recreate ourselves anew as a humanity. Recreate ourselves as a brand new kind of living organism, a brand new kind of species, and recreate the organism as a cluster, as a group, rather than as a scattering of single individuals.